So as you know, some people express a great deal of empathy, which means they pick up on your emotions even if they don't want to, and they understand how you're feeling and can relate. And sometimes this can be a hindrance because it causes them to become too emotionally involved with you. And sometimes they'll have to take a step back, they'll have to take a break, they'll have to tune out or stay away from you because they need to rest. You know, feeling other people's emotions, getting emotionally connected with them is draining. And so even if they like you, they sometimes need to rest and stay away, because if they keep interacting with you without getting the proper rest, it drains them and it turns into physical pain sometimes. And you know, everybody's going through probably physical pain. I mean, but when you're allowing your pain to make you suffer, then it becomes even more intense, and you're not enjoying life as much as you can, and it probably attracts a lot of negative things towards you, because inside some people are constantly churning and having these strange emotions going on, and so they need to step back sometimes and take a break. So you have to understand, when someone takes a break, it's not personal, it's just what they're going through. They need space, they need time. In contrast, some people are very emotionally illiterate, usually men, but oftentimes nowadays more women who are trying to take on more manly responsibilities or more dominant responsibilities become emotionally illiterate, and they cannot read when it's time to back off to you, when it's time to leave you alone, when it's time to give you your space. And you know, they don't understand that sometimes when you walk in the door, you don't feel like hearing a bunch of prankster rambling or a dominant woman trying to put you in your place because she thinks you did something and she has no proof, but she's gonna accuse you because she just feels like it. And you know, oftentimes men are like that with their wives too. Like this guy Dave, he's just totally illiterate emotionally. Like his wife complained about him just totally disregarding her feelings and not understanding where she's coming from, and he had the nerve to tell her, why don't you try being me, why don't you try understanding what I'm going through? And you know, it's like he didn't even relate to her or try to understand where she was coming from. But of course there's probably more involved with that on his behalf. There's probably something personal that he needed to work through and he was in denial or ashamed about. So you know, sometimes you cannot take these things personally. And then some people, they don't like to experience bad emotions or criticism at all because they don't know what they're feeling and they don't know how to respond. And so when somebody starts taunting them or harassing them, they may turn to reckless behaviors like pornography or excessive drinking because they don't know how to express themselves, or maybe they can't because nobody listens to them. So, you know, there are a lot of different types of people in the world. To be emotionally literate, you have to be able to understand what you're going through and how you're feeling and be able to convey that. And the purpose of studying psychology, for those who are not going into becoming a doctor, it's so you can express to the doctor what you're going through. Like a lot of people claim they're going through anxiety, but there's so many different other labels out there that you may not understand. And sometimes doctors don't want us to blame other people for what we're going through because they want us to really examine ourselves. And my doctor did this. He had me tell him what I thought was wrong with me. You know, it's like a lot of people who are being taunted, they may have adjustment disorder, which is not a traditional mental disorder. It just means you cannot relate to your environment, maybe because you're having culture shock. You're not used to being around certain types of people, and there are so many of these people that you're not accustomed to in your environment, and it causes you to kind of disassociate with them and feel uncomfortable around them. Whereas there's so many of them that they think the way they act and the way they behave is normal, and it may not be. The doctor also did say, he said that's not normal the way they behave. It's just there's so many of them that they believe it is. And additionally, many boys are taught that emotions are bad and that they're a female thing, and that is not necessarily true. You know, boys don't throw hissy fits and aren't supposed to be dramatic, but it's okay for you to understand your emotions and express them. Like, for example, if somebody steps on your white Air Force Ones and marks them all up, you don't have to throw a fit and cuss them out or try to fight them. You could just say, hey, I don't like that you stepped on my shoes. Could you apologize? Because, these were expensive and I take pride in my shoes just like you might take pride in your car, and I don't like people damaging my stuff. Another thing is, a lot of people have jobs where they have to listen to a lot of people complain, and then this person that's taking in so many complaints, it's going to affect them emotionally and physically to where they start complaining to their family and so forth, and they're the ones they depend on, and it hurts them not only emotionally but physically. And the thing the doctor recommends to do is to figure out what's causing your pain and eliminate it, because everybody's suffering. But if you don't want the pain of others to make you suffer, it will compound any type of injuries you have, and it'll make you stress out even more. So if there's something bothering you and you can control it, then do so. If not, remove yourself from the situation, take a break, and let them know why. Also, if you're experiencing a lot of pain, learn to listen to your body. I mean, for the past decade, I've been trying so hard to find a job that will accommodate me, but in the process, I've been typing a lot, and I have pains going up and down my spine, and towards the end of the month, I get horrible headaches that last for days, and like massive amounts of painkillers, which I'm not even supposed to take, won't even help. And so, what I have to do is find the source of my injury and tune it out. Yes, there's a physical injury, but there's also an injury coming from somewhere else. And these headaches is probably because I'm listening to something that is driving my central nervous system nuts. And it's just kind of, the pain's like a sensor in your car. It's letting you know something's wrong, something's going to happen if you don't learn to tune this out or adjust it. And much like if you have a flat tire, you can't really put a patch on it. You have to replace the tire, or else eventually it'll wear down and you'll have a worse problem later on down the road. So learn to listen to your body. Not only that, but while you're awake, you should learn to rest too. You shouldn't be just on the go 24/7 and only sleeping at night. When you're at home, take some time to, even if you're not sleeping, just to lay in the bed and read a book, turn the TV off, listen to some music or something, give your body a chance to relax while you're awake, because when you're sleeping, sometimes you're active in your dreams and your body's not really resting. So that might be why you're so tired. You're just going to have to reorganize your time, and it'll help you. And just like you have so much compassion for others, have compassion for yourself. Learn to hold yourself and care for yourself and do things that you like. And, if you need your space, tell people that, because you only have one life to live, and you want to make sure you live it well. Now, this is what I find extremely interesting and important. Sarcasm. When a person's using sarcasm, it means something's wrong with them, and they're expressing that. Sarcasm is never okay. It's not funny. It means the person's angry, and they're letting you know they have a problem. And then, have you noticed some couples are always fighting? They care about each other, but they never really get along after a while. And the reason for that is because one of them has all the power and the other one doesn't. And it's just like, when he goes out and does things, it's okay. But when she goes out and does things, he gets all upset and, jealous and angry. But when they try to drift their separate ways, he lets her know that, that's not a possibility. And so that's an unhealthy relationship. And either you two are going to have to spend more time together, and you guys are going to have to learn to express your feelings and say, hey, I feel sad because you're out with this person and I'm sitting at home. Something like that. And, it's kind of unreasonable to have someone in your life and just keep them on the back burner. It's kind of using them, it's wasting their time. And what if you keep doing this for a year or 2 years? They basically bypass a lot of other healthy relationships they could have had. It's not really fair because you're out there doing God knows what. And then, there's much more to sex. Some people are aroused by control. So if they feel they can control you, they find that arousing and they'll want to have sex with you. It may not even be that they find you attractive. So many women are also always wondering, why did he cheat on me with this ugly girl? And it's because he can't control you. You're beautiful and you stand up for yourself, but this desperate woman, just throws herself at him, and he finds it enticing to be able to control her. He's just aroused by the control. And then we already talked about this, but some people like sex because it makes them feel better. It's like a painkiller for them. So whenever they can have sex with anyone around, they will. And sometimes it'll even be with someone of the same gender. So they need to figure out what's going on and kind of tune into themselves and figure out why they're in so much pain. And there's an interesting case study about this man named Peter. His 16-year-old son is always telling him that, he's not listening to him. And, so after dinner, Peter goes to put the dishes in the dishwasher without rinsing them off first. And his dad starts yelling at him, then he yells back at his dad, and then they kind of let it go. But I think that they're fighting because the father really is kind of hard on him, and he's kind of hard in his heart, and he's not listening to the boy. And so the boy is not doing what the father wants. They're not communicating, and so they're not getting along. And there's only so much power Peter's son has, right? He can't control his father, although he tries to. But, sometimes you really have to sit down and look at what you're doing wrong to cause your kids to trip out. And another thing, Peter's being reactive. He's reacting to what his son does. He's not interacting with him. And Peter's probably had problems with his own father, and so he's treating his son just like his dad treated him. And so eventually they're going to have to overcome this, or the son usually ends up rebelling, and then their relationship just falls apart and disappears. You have to look at your past and understand why your future is the way it is, and start connecting the dots. So, this will help you learn about life and make life a little more easier on yourself. And just like the example with Peter and his son, Peter apparently had a problem with his own father, and so that's why they're having so many issues. So if he wants a healthy relationship with his son, then he has to overcome these issues, learn to listen to him, spend time with him, and communicate with him. It cannot be just a dictatorship where you tell him, do this, do this, do this all the time, because he'll feel like he's being used and that you do not care, and maybe you do. So yeah, instead of blowing the whistle on other people and telling on them, learn to tell on yourself. Figure out what you're doing wrong in your life and why people are responding to you the way they are. And some people may be emotionally numb because they've experienced trauma. Maybe, Peter might expect his son to be more like worshiping towards him. Like, he might say good things when his father's not around, but he doesn't express them to his father. And there could be a reason for that. Maybe there was another male role model in his life that did something awful, and so he's scared that that will happen again, and hoping that his father will pick up on this and learn to listen to him and spend time with him and figure out what's going on. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable voicing stuff. And just because you're emotionally numb, it does not mean you should be ashamed, or you should let anyone else make you feel shame for that. It's just something you have to overcome. It's just part of life. So if and when you start feeling yourself becoming emotionally numb, recognize this and do whatever you need to do to dissipate that numbness, to make it go away, to make it stop.